Well, welcome back to our next lesson on the product rule. So here's our notation for the product rule. We're going to take the derivative, d dx, of f of x times g of x. Now you'll notice that there's a big times sign in here, which is intending the word product. The other thing I want you to take very careful notice of is that both of these functions, f of x and g of x, are in terms of x. Okay, in order to do product rule, we have to have two x's. So here is the product rule. It's going to be f of x times g prime of x plus g of x times f prime of x. Now, since addition is cumulative, it really didn't matter which direction you went. You certainly could have done g of x and f prime first, but it didn't matter. So notice I took one function times the derivative of the other, plus the other function times the derivative of the other one I didn't use. So let's go ahead and see if product rule applies here. So it says take the derivative of x squared times the sine of x. So notice it's important to read it out loud. If you said times when you read it out loud, and you have a function in terms of x on the left and a function in terms of x on the right, you know you have product rule. So my f of x function is like x squared, and my g of x function would be sine of x. So if you look back in your notes, the rule says f of x, so I'm going to leave x squared, times the derivative of the other function. And we learned yesterday our derivative rule, so the derivative of sine is cosine, plus leave the other function, so leave sine of x, times the derivative of that other function, which would be 2x, of course. And there you have it. X squared times cos x plus sine of x times 2x. And I'm just going to clean it up in one more step. I'm going to always put that trig function last and the other term first. So I'm going to say plus 2x sine of x. Let's try another one. Take the derivative of radical x times the cosine of x. So again, I said the word times, so I'm thinking product, and now I'm just going to make sure there's two functions in terms of x. So here's my times sign. Radical x has an x, and cos of x has an x. Therefore, I can use product. So I'm going to leave the first function, and I'm going to rewrite, of course, as x to the 1/2 times the derivative of the second function. And again, from our notes from the previous lesson, the derivative of cosine starts with a c, so it's negative sine of x plus, leave the second function, and now take the derivative of the first. Now remember, radical x is really x to the 1/2. So its derivative, bring down my 1/2, x subtract 2 over 2, x to the negative 1/2. So I'm going to say 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. And lastly, I'm just going to clean it up. Remember that I'm going to pull any coefficients or constants out in front. So I'm going to multiply this negative here. So I'm going to say that's negative x to the 1/2 times the sine of x. And again, I'm going to pull this out front. So plus 1 over 2 radical x cos x. And to be even more clear, I'm going to fix that last term as negative radical x sine of x plus 1 over 2 radical x cos x. In our last example here, we have a table of values, x, f of x, h of x, f prime, and h prime, and their corresponding values. So we're asked to find the derivative of f of x times h of x. So again, I said times out loud, so I'm thinking product rule. The term to the left has an x, and the term to the right has an x, so I know I'm going to apply the product rule. So basically, I'm going to do nothing with that table until I've done my calculus. So I'm going to go first term times the derivative of the second. Now, if h is the first term, its derivative is just read h prime of x, plus, in between product rule, that second term, h of x, times the derivative of the first, f prime of x. Now, we're going to go one more step. We're going to evaluate this derivative at x equals 3. Okay, so once we've taken that derivative, I want to now plug in the number 3. So again, still not using the table at all. I'm just going to write down f of 3, h prime of 3, plus h of 3 times f prime of 3. And now I'm finally ready to use the table and see if I have those values. So f of 3 is 6 times h prime of 3, which is 4, plus h of 3, which is 0, and f prime of 3, which is 6. So I basically have 24 plus 0 times whatever is just 0. I would say I get an answer of 24. That does it for our product rule. Good luck with the assignment.